Hi, I'm Laura Flanders. This week on the show, an economist talks about why gender matters, Hawaiians teach us a little something about gender diversity, and I have a few thoughts on why the media discussion about all of this stinks. Welcome to the Laura Flanders Show, where the people who say it can't be done take a back seat to the people who are doing it. Conventional economic policy is gender blind, but what difference does a gender-conscious lens make? When you look at markets, for example, what happens when you include the unpaid work that mostly women do of parenting and housework? What if we gave all that caring, non-market work a value? What would happen to our understanding of market forces and the economy, and what maybe would have to change? Pavlina Tcherneva is Associate Professor and Chair at the Department of Economics at Bard College. She's also a Research Associate at the Levi Economics Institute and a Senior Research Scholar at the Center for Full Employment and Price Stability. Can fiscal policy be feminist? I think she'd say it could. Pavlina, welcome to the program. Let's start with placing you in people's minds. People might know you as the author of the chart that Bernie Sanders took into Congress and that for a brief time was called the most important chart you'll ever see.
Mr. President, let me show you an incredibly revelatory chart. And this chart talks about distribution of average income growth during expansions, and what the bottom 90% received versus what the top 10% of families received.
Yes, it was Twitter's fault. I had done some research on fiscal policy and the impact of fiscal policy on incomes, and I just found this stunning relationship looking at the Piketty inequality data. And I asked a simple question: when the economy grows, who gains?
What this chart shows is that in the last 3 decades after World War II, the vast majority of Americans did well when the economy did well. This is the percentage of new income that went to the bottom 90%, and this is what the top 10% got. They did okay. 10% did pretty well. They got 20% of all the income. But the bottom 90% got 80% of the income. And then 54 to 57 went down a little bit, but the bottom 90% did pretty well. Bottom 90% did pretty well. Bottom 90% did pretty well. Bottom 90% begins to do less well, but they're still getting a majority of the new income. Whoa! What happens in 1982? Well, Ronald Reagan is president, and the good news is we are into trickle-down economics.
And then when I looked at the Piketty data, it turns out that with every subsequent expansion in the post-war era, a smaller and smaller share of that growth went to the bottom 90%, or even the bottom 99% of households. The shift was extraordinary in the 70s.
And here it is. And this chart tells it all. This is what the top 20% got. This is what the bottom 90% got. And here we are in the last number here, where we are today. And lo and behold, the top 10% gets it all. Gets it all. And frankly, this is a metaphor. This is an example of exactly what trickle-down economics is all about.
In this last expansion, all of the growth has gone to the top 1%. So the vast majority of us are not actually feeling a recovery because incomes are declining.
And how have women fared in all of this?
Not too well. You know, it was funny because when the recession hit, it was dubbed man-cession.
That's right.
And the reason was because the unemployment rate of men accelerated a little faster than women. Usually unemployment rates are pretty comparable. Actually, women are slightly more underemployed, which is basically an expanded way of looking at unemployment when you look at precarious work, etc. But during the recession, both male and female unemployment rates shot up, men's a little faster. But when the recovery came, men's unemployment rate started declining and women's unemployment rate plateaued. So, there's a very clear dimension to these economic problems. Women tend to work more precarious jobs. They not only that there is a pay gap, we know that well, but they tend to work more part-time jobs, more poorly paid jobs, and they experience more poverty.
This is the Laura Flanders Show, where the people who say it can't be done take a back seat to the people who are doing it. So can fiscal policy make any difference, make any impact on all of that?
It certainly can. Fiscal policy can make great difference on
So just
many
for the
fronts.
sake of many of us, clarify what we exactly mean when we say fiscal policy. There was a legislator recently, I think in Minnesota, who actually passed a resolution saying that assembly, that the legislature was required to use the word fiscal and not physical.
That's right, exactly.
Because they were clearly confused. So in case anybody from that legislature is watching,
that's right.
Lay it out for us.
That's right. So fiscal policy usually refers to any act of Congress that deals with the management of the economy. So when Congress gets together and passes budgets for X, Y, and Z, that is fiscal policy. Whether we pass budgets for various tax incentives, whether there are various expenditure programs, whether there are tax cuts, subsidies, all of those fall under the purview of the fiscal arm of government. That is, as opposed to monetary policy, which is conducted by the Fed and largely deals with interest rates changes.
So can fiscal policy be feminist?
It can. It certainly can be feminist. I mean, every policy has important gender dimensions. And the reason is because economic problems are disproportionately felt by different groups. So, when we talk about fiscal policy, it's such a general term. We think in these very aggregate terms that if only government were to spend or cut taxes, somehow growth will bring shared prosperity. But that's not really the reality. Economic problems are concentrated, usually at the bottom of the income distribution. People with low incomes experience greater poverty, greater unemployment, greater precarious labor market conditions, and women and minorities disproportionately affected by these problems.
So you need policy solutions that also target specific groups differently, right?
Right, correct. So when we have an understanding of how women fare in the economy, then our policies will be better targeted to their specific problems. One way, for example, to look at the recovery is to see who has fared well. The unemployment rate is almost as low as it was prior to the Great Recession.
Which Democrats are claiming is a great victory.
Is a great victory, exactly. But concentrated poverty has doubled over the last 10 years, meaning that twice as many people live in neighborhoods of extreme poverty as compared to 10 years ago. That number hasn't changed since the peak of the crisis.
And obviously when people stop looking for work, they stop showing up in those unemployment numbers, right?
Exactly.
So talk a bit about how a feminist lens affects the bigger picture. So I'm hearing that we need policy that looks at the specific conditions of different groups, because it's not just one differentiated economy out there. But with respect to sort of economic theory, start perhaps with that question of markets. What difference does it make to have a gender-conscious approach?
Yeah. So when we talk about the market mechanism or how economies work, economists use this euphemism, the representative agent, and of course there is no such thing. And what we need to do is to bring specific analytic categories in our understanding of markets. And those will include race, they will include gender, they will include class. Without explicit articulation of those analytic categories, we can't theorize, number one. And then number two, we're not going to study the problems that are disproportionately experienced by low-income groups, people of color, and women. So the first thing at the level of theory and at policy is to acknowledge and recognize that these are important groups that need to be studied. Then from the perspective of how you design policy, they can be gender-aware policies. I mean, this has been recognized, I think, by at least some international groups who advocate gender-aware budgets, for example. Like, what would it mean to design a congressional budget or to design public policy that specifically targets women, children, unpaid care burdens, all of the problems that are normally borne by women.
But we don't do that here?
We don't have gender-aware budgeting in the United States. Countries like India do. But in the US, we don't have this kind of conversation. And it's very interesting because the United States, for example, is one of 3 countries in the world that doesn't have paid family leave. We are, with Papua New Guinea, I believe, and Lesotho, I believe those are the other 2, are the only country that doesn't have federally mandated family leave. What this means, of course, in the context of, we don't have public health care, we don't have all the other kind of social safety nets that we've come to know present in Europe. So we have a more, I would say, greater challenges. Families here in the United States are facing greater challenges in participating in the labor market, supporting their families, and responding to emergency situations like care for children or elderly, which are again disproportionately done by women.
The Laura Flanders Show is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Support our show by donating at www.lauraflanders.com.
So that takes me to the question of markets again, because I'm very struck by the metaphorical implications of, well, if you look at the fact that some labor is actually not market-driven, it's care-driven, that might change our equation. But there are very concrete ramifications of counting that unpaid labor too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the feminist literature, there's a clear recognition that taking care of children is a very important input, if you will, to a support mechanism to the market system. And the fact that we can educate our kids, take good care of them at home, means that they will become, better workers in the workplace. And this is investment by families that is not recognized by public policy, but it is a clear benefit to the market, the so-called market. So, public policy usually is driven by should be driven by several recognitions. That first, we need to provide for children and families as a basic human right.
Morally correct.
Morally the right thing to do. We need to provide the kind of safety nets that permit people to make the choices to work or not to work, how to work, whether to educate themselves or their kids on the right basis. If you have a good safety net that allows you to make this choice, this decision, then the decisions are not under duress, if you will.
Right. A woman shouldn't be deciding, well, I don't have time to look after my child. I could make more money for the household by working, so I won't feed my kid this week.
Precisely. Or, for example, you will notice that in the U.S., women's participation in the labor market varies with the number of children. For men, that's not the case. You could have 4 children, but participation is very stable. The reason is because women take care of children generally at home. And when we have a relatively inadequate system of childcare education, daycare, and also mother-friendly jobs that give flexibility in the workplace, etc., then it's no surprise that women have to make this choice.
So 2 things. One, on the Republican side, you have Donald Trump and others saying, there is downward pressure on wages ever since women entered the workforce because there's more workers. There's other downward pressures too, he would say, immigrants and so on. If you have to let markets run their course. So that's something you can really do. Women entering the force is what's brought wages down. What's your answer to that? And then secondly, I want to hear what your economic plan would be for the man who took your chart to Congress, namely Bernie Sanders.
Well, the first thing is that this idea that markets are going to sort out our economic problems is clearly nonsense. It has, we have had plenty, decades of market-friendly policies. We have not solved our most pressing economic problems, and in fact, they have gotten worse. So the empirical reality is very clear. Also, the notion that pushing wages down increases employment is another sort of ideological position. We know that this is not true. In fact, it actually probably creates more precarious income conditions for families, inducing them to seek more employment, right? They have to find another job when they see their overall incomes fall. So, no, markets, we don't need to accept poverty wages, right, for markets or for firms to be happy to employ the desperate. Right? We need to provide alternative policies. So I've been working on proposals that deal precisely with the problem of unemployment. You will find that poverty, destitution, crime, virtually every socioeconomic problem that we face, environmental problem in part, is due to large-scale unemployment, long-term unemployment.
So what do we do about it?
And so this has to be the target of policy, direct. Our policy has to focus directly on unemployment. Usually we think of growth, we think of these other things. Let's just recover, let us restore investment, competitiveness, productivity, growth, on and on and on. Employment is always considered some sort of result of all of these things.
Trickle down.
But then, of course, policy doesn't produce full employment. So now we have accepted the reality of jobless growth. Well, we need to do precisely the opposite.
So what would we do?
The focus has to be on full employment. And we need direct targeted policies. And by this, I mean really just giving people jobs.
Now, could that be jobs inside the home? Where do you stand on paid childcare?
Well, certainly part of
domestic work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, direct employment would recognize the work that women do within the household. And there are various ways in which we can do that. One is quite simply to provide a universal child allowance, which pays women for their care at home. You will also find that women actually want jobs. They don't just want handouts. So for those who choose to stay at home, universal child allowance or some sort of income support will be absolutely essential. But for those women who want to work, there has to be an opportunity, a guaranteed opportunity that it will be there, that it will be mother-friendly, and that it will provide basic decent income. And so, my approach to direct job creation, which would be essentially to guarantee an opportunity for those who want it in the public sector at a decent pay, men or women.
And what about Hillary Clinton? I mean, she's the one that's talking about paid parental leave, and talks about childcare. I mean, she's running as the women's candidate, for better or worse.
Certainly. I mean, there are mother-friendly policies in her proposals as well, and they are also policies that sort of push through the market mechanism. They attempt to work through the market mechanism through incentives. There's nothing wrong with attempting to do that, but unless we quite literally guarantee an employment opportunity to all, it's not going to happen. The private sector will have only so many incentives to employ only so many people. And the way the private sector works, it employs the employable first. Like if you look at just how firms poach each other for good employees and workers. And you have to have an extraordinary amount of stimulus to get to the very bottom of the people who actually need the jobs, and to climb the economic ladder and find a decent economic opportunity.
It's great talking to you. Thank you so much. We could keep going for ages. You can find out more about our guest at our website. She's an associate professor and chair of the Department of Economics at Bard University in New York. Thanks so much for coming in.
It was great to be here.
Native Hawaiians have a lot to teach us about our limited approach to gender diversity. Dean Hammer and Joe Wilson a couple of years ago produced a feature on exactly that. Now they are releasing a curriculum in connection with their film, A Place in the Middle. Here's a look.
Before the coming of foreigners to our islands, we Hawaiians lived in aloha, in harmony with the land and with one another. Every person had their role in society, whether male, female, or mahu. Those who embraced both the feminine and masculine traits that are embodied within each and every one of us. Mahu were valued and respected as caretakers, healers, and teachers of ancient traditions. We passed on sacred knowledge from one generation to the next through hula, chant, and other forms of wisdom. When American missionaries arrived in the 1800s, they were shocked and infuriated by these practices and did everything they could to abolish them. They condemned our hula and chant as immoral. They outlawed our language, and they imposed their religious strictures across our lands. But we Hawaiians are a steadfast and resilient people. And so, despite 200 years of colonization and repression, we are still here.
In the Hawaiian language, kane means male and wahine means female. Ancient Hawaiians realized that some people are not simply one or the other.
My name is Ho'onani Kamai. I was born in Hawaii 11 years ago, but my ancestors have been here for centuries. They came on big voyaging canoes over thousands of miles of ocean. Despite their isolation, they built up an amazing civilization with its own language and culture and philosophy. Hawaii has changed a lot since then, and many of the old ways have been forgotten. But there are still a few places that are trying to keep the ancient traditions alive. This is one of them, my school. I know it doesn't look like much, but for me, it's a very special place. That's me, and that's our teacher, Kumuhina.
Kumuhina is a teacher who understands firsthand what it's like to be in the middle, the Hawaiian tradition of embracing male and female spirit.
This is a cultural icon in Hawaii. Do you guys all understand? Hina is trying to hold on to what is left of Hawaiian culture. To say the word kumu means what? But what does it mean? If you say aloha to anybody, where is it coming from? Your mouth? Supposed to be. Or don't say the word. When you sing Hawaii Pono'i, what flag do you have on your chest? Hi, Hawaii. We didn't get to sing that stuff in our schools. We had to pledge allegiance to the flag that took over Hawaii. Do you get it? There's a reason you were born in Hawaii or came home to Hawaii. There's some reason. It's divine energy that runs up through the lava. Do you guys get it? You are the warriors of today.
A Place in the Middle was directed and produced by Dean Hammer and Joe Wilson. You can learn more about their movie and Hawaiian approaches to diversity, the true meaning of aloha, and more at aplaceinthemiddle.org. You can also find out more about the film and that curriculum.
Well, that's the end of the story, at least for now. So it's time to say aloha, which can either mean hello or goodbye, or the most important meaning of all, which is to have love, honor, and respect for everyone. Aloha.
That's it for this week. I want to thank everyone who made this report possible. If you want to help keep coverage like this coming, please follow the links and contribute at lauraflanders.com. And if you want to tell me what you think, write to me. That's Laura at lauraflanders.com. Laura at lauraflanders.com. Thanks a lot. We'll be back next week.